The night was quiet, and the station lights glowed softly above the black surface of Earth's orbit. He sat alone in his small room, looking out through the wide window into the endless dark of space. For him, this was a normal night. Nothing different, just another shift ending on a lonely outpost. He was tired, but he still had the habit of checking messages before sleep. Most of the time it was routine, reports, updates, or nothing important at all. But this time, the screen blinked. In a strange way. The message was not from the central system, not from command, not even from any human contact. It had no name, no signature, only 3 words written in a calm, strange tone. It said, "We must bond." He stared at it, confused, almost laughing, thinking someone was playing a trick. Bond? What did that even mean? He deleted it, shook his head, and went to make himself a drink, but the screen blinked again. The same words appeared once more, clear and sharp. "We must bond." This time, his heart beat a little faster. He leaned closer, trying to see if it was a system error, maybe a loop, maybe just corrupted code. Yet it looked too deliberate, too direct. He checked the source, but there was nothing. No signal path, no sender, nothing in the system logs. It was as if the words had written themselves. He tried to ignore it. But when he lay on his bed, he could not sleep. The words stayed in his mind, repeating again and again. What if it was some test from command, a secret drill? Or worse, what if someone had hacked the station systems? He was alone, yes, but not invisible. Out there in the galaxy, he knew many eyes could be watching. Still, he told himself it was just a prank, nothing more. The next day was normal at first. He went to the control deck, checked the scanners, ran the daily checks. No strange signals, no unknown ships, nothing unusual. But when he passed the comm screen again, the words flashed for a third time. This time there was something added. A soft whisper, not typed but spoken. He heard a woman's voice say, "We must bond." It was calm, almost gentle, but it carried power. His skin froze, his throat went dry. This was not just data, not just text, it was a voice. Someone had spoken directly into the system, directly to him. He rushed to trace the signal. The system showed static, lines of code shifting like smoke. It moved too fast, like it was alive, like it was hiding from his eyes. And then, the voice came again. "You do not believe, but you will see me soon." He froze, his fingers stiff. Over the controls, whoever it was, they were watching him. Maybe even reading his thoughts. He felt a weight in the room, as if someone else was standing behind him. But when he turned, there was only empty air. That night, he tried to push the thought away. He ate in silence, staring at the window again. Earth looked peaceful below, a blue and green ball turning slowly in space. But peace was not what he felt. He felt hunted, chosen, and he did not know why. He tried to laugh again, telling himself maybe he was just tired, maybe it was all in his head. Yet when the lights flickered above his bed, he knew it was not his imagination. The lights dimmed and brightened in a pattern. 3 long flashes, 3 short, 3 long again. It was a signal, a code. He had seen this once long ago in training. It was not human code. It was alien. The kind the fleet had recorded in rare encounters with species they could not yet understand. His heart raced. His breath grew short. Why him? Why here? Why now? The whisper came again, closer, almost at his ear this time. "We must bond, or you will not survive." He jumped from his bed, scanning the room. The shadows seemed to move on their own. The hum of the station grew louder, like a heartbeat echoing in metal walls. He grabbed his sidearm, even though he knew a gun would not help against whatever this was. The voice was not threatening, not violent, but there was something heavy behind it. Something that told him this was not a joke, not a trick, not even a choice. He felt like a door had opened, and something had already stepped into his life. The strange message was not only a call, it was a warning. He thought of sending a report to command, but stopped. How could he explain? Would they even believe him? Or would they think he had lost his mind? He sat down, breathing hard. The words echoed in his head one more time. We must bond. And this time, he did not laugh. This time, he felt the truth behind the voice, and deep inside he knew, whoever she was already on her way. And when she arrived, nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The station was silent again, but silence no longer felt safe. Every sound, every flicker of light carried meaning now. He had not told command about the strange voice. Instead, he stayed awake, waiting, listening. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but his mind refused to rest. The whisper from last night still echoed in his ears. She had promised she was coming. He told himself it was impossible. Nobody could reach this outpost without clearance, without a shuttle, without being detected. Still, deep inside, he knew she was not lying. The message was not a dream, not a trick. It was real, and she was real. Hours passed slowly, the kind of hours that stretch longer than they should. He checked the scanners again and again. Nothing, just the quiet stars and the steady orbit of Earth below. No ships, no signals, no signs of approach. But when night came, something changed. The lights in the corridor flickered, then dimmed. The hum of the station turned into a strange low pulse. It sounded like a second heartbeat inside the walls. And then came the knock. It was soft, almost polite, 3 short taps on the metal door. He froze, every muscle tense. No one should be here. The outpost was meant for one man, one duty. Visitors were impossible. Still the sound came again, gentle but firm. Tap, tap, tap. He reached for his sidearm, but his hand shook. The knock did not stop. It grew slower, heavier, until the door itself seemed to shiver. He stepped closer, weapon raised. "Who is there?" he shouted, his voice sharp, echoing in the empty corridor. There was silence, and then a voice. "You already know me." It was her, the same calm voice from the messages. He felt his chest tighten, his mind racing. She was here, at his door. He swallowed hard and unlocked the panel. The door slid open with a hiss. She stood there, tall and still. Her figure was slim, wrapped in a dark cloak that shimmered like liquid metal. Her eyes glowed faintly. Not bright, but enough to draw him in. Her skin looked almost human, but smoother, sharper. Her presence filled the corridor as if the air itself bent around her. She looked at him, calm, almost curious. "I told you," she said softly. "We must bond." He pointed his weapon at her, his hand trembling. "Stay back," he warned. But she did not move, did not fear. Her glowing eyes only softened. "If I wanted to harm you, you would not be standing," she said. Her voice was not a threat, but it carried weight. Something about it made him lower the gun without meaning to. He hated that. Hated how easily she bent his will. Yet he could not deny the strange calm that spread through him. He forced himself to speak. "What do you want from me?" Her answer came without hesitation. "Survival, yours and mine." She stepped inside, the door closing behind her with a sharp hiss. The air in the room grew heavy, charged. He felt his heart beat faster, not just from fear, but from something he could not name. She moved closer, slow but steady. Her cloak whispered across the floor. She stopped just in front of him, close enough that he could see faint patterns moving under her skin. They shifted like waves of light, glowing and fading. Her hand rose, but she did not touch him. Instead, she hovered her fingers inches from his chest. "You feel it, don't you?" she said softly. He wanted to deny it, but his body betrayed him. His pulse matched the hum of the station, matched her presence. It was as if his life was sinking to hers. He stepped back, shaking his head. "This is madness," he whispered. Her expression did not change, but her eyes grew sharper. "Madness or not, it has already begun," she said. Then the lights flickered again. An alarm sounded, shrill and cold. The scanner screen lit up. With red signals, unknown drones, fast and hostile, were closing on the outpost. His breath caught in his throat. "How did they find us?" he asked. She turned to the window. her cloak shifting like living shadow. "They followed me," she said, calm but firm. "And now they will come for you too." The station shook, a distant explosion rattling the walls. The enemy was already firing, already breaching. He raised his weapon again, this time with purpose. "Tell me what to do," he demanded, her eyes locked onto his, glowing brighter now. "Accept the bond," she said. "It is the only way you survive." Another explosion shook the room, sparks falling from the ceiling. He clenched his teeth, sweat on his face. He did not trust her, but he trusted the danger outside even less. And he knew, deep inside, the choice had already been made. The bond, whatever it was, had begun the moment she spoke to him. And now, with death pressing at the door, he had no choice but to step. Into her world, the arrival was not the end, it was only the beginning. The station shook again, metal groaning under the pressure of enemy fire. Sparks rained from the ceiling, alarms screamed, and the hum of engines outside grew louder. He held his weapon tight, sweat dripping down his face, but no weapon felt strong enough for this. She stood calm in the chaos, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "Listen," she said, her voice clear despite the noise. "You must understand what the bond means." He glared at her, torn between fear and anger. "You appear out of nowhere, bring war to my door, and now you talk about bonds," he snapped. "Why me? What do you want from me?" She stepped closer, her movements slow but certain. "The enemy hunts me because I carry something they fear," she explained. "A power they cannot control, but they know I cannot use it alone." Her hand rose, again hovering close to his chest. "That is why I came to you." He shook his head, stepping back. "This is insane. I'm just a man on a forgotten outpost," he said. "You could have chosen anyone, but you came to me. Why?" Her gaze softened, but her tone carried no doubt. "Because only humans can complete the bond," she replied. "Our kind is strong, but incomplete. We cannot survive long without connection. With a bond partner, we share strength, speed, and awareness. Alone, we are hunted. Together, we are unstoppable." The station jolted again, a blast rocking the walls. He stumbled, catching himself against the console. The red lights on the scanner showed drones circling the outpost, like vultures. There was no time for endless questions, but his mind refused to believe. "You're saying I'll become stronger just because of this?" "Connection?" he asked. She nodded slowly, her cloak shimmering with every move. "You will see what I see, feel what I feel," she explained. "Our thoughts will link, our senses will expand. You will move faster, fight better, survive longer." Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. "But the bond is not only power, it is trust, it is risk. If you open yourself to me, I will see you as you truly are." He swallowed hard, his pulse racing. The idea of someone inside his mind made his skin crawl. "You want to crawl into my head, is that it?" he asked bitterly. Her face stayed calm, but her voice grew sharper. "Not crawl, connect. I give as much as I take. You will see me too. My fears, my memories, my truth. Nothing will be hidden. Not yours, not mine." The thought made him uneasy. He had secrets, regrets, memories he never wanted to share with anyone. But another explosion shook the walls, and the console sparked with warning signals. The drones were cutting through the station's outer hull. He had minutes, maybe less. Before they broke inside, he looked at her again, desperate and uncertain. "Why should I trust you?" he asked. Her eyes softened again, a strange sadness in them. "Because I have no one else left," she whispered. Her voice cracked for the first time, and he felt the weight of her words. She was not just powerful, she was also alone. Hunted, carrying a burden she could not bear alone. The lights flickered, then dimmed completely. Only her faint glow lit the room now. Her presence pressed against him like a wave. And then, without touching, he felt her inside his mind. It was faint, at first like a whisper, a memory that was not his, a glimpse of fire, metal ruins, and a world burning under alien skies. He gasped, stumbling back. but the vision faded as quickly as it came. "That was you," he whispered, breathless. She nodded, her face unreadable. "My world is gone," she said softly. "And if we fail, yours will follow." Another blast echoed, closer this time, shaking the floor beneath them. The drones were almost through. He raised his weapon again, but it felt useless compared to what she promised. He clenched his jaw, torn between fear of her and fear of death. Finally, he lowered the weapon, his voice tight. "Fine. Tell me how this works." Her eyes lit brighter, a small spark of relief crossing her face. "You open your mind to me," she said. "Not with words, not with fear, but with will. You accept me, fully, without hiding, without walls." He frowned, anger and doubt still twisting inside him. "And if I don't?" Her glow dimmed, her voice turning cold. "Then they will kill us both." The room shook violently, metal tearing as the drones breached the outer hull. The screech of claws against steel echoed through the corridor. Time was over. Choice was gone. It was bond or die. She stepped closer, her hand now inches from his chest. Her glow spread across her fingers, warm and sharp. "Do not fight it," she whispered. He shut his eyes, his heart pounding like a drum. And in that moment, he felt the walls inside his mind crack. A flood of warmth, light, and strange power rushed into him. Memories not his own, voices not his own. Her fear, her strength, her loneliness, all pouring into him. And she felt his pain, his doubts, his hidden scars. For the first time in his life, he was not alone, and he knew she wasn't either. The station walls shook one final time as the drones broke through. But he opened his eyes, and something had changed. The fear was still there, but so was something new. He could see the drones before they entered, hear their metal claws, feel their movements as if they were already in his mind. Her voice echoed inside his thoughts now, steady and clear. "We are bonded," she said. "Now, fight with me." The station corridor went dark as the power failed. Only the dim red emergency lights flickered across the walls. Metal groaned as the outer hatch bent under pressure. Then came the sound, sharp and terrifying, the screech of claws tearing steel apart. The enemy drones were inside. He stood frozen. For a moment, the weapon in his hand heavy and useless, but inside his head another voice spoke, calm and steady. Her voice not in the air but in his mind. "They are here, but you can see them now, can't you?" He blinked, confused, and then realized he could sense movement beyond the door. Not with his eyes, but with something deeper. He could feel the sharp crawl of metal legs, the cold hunger of machines programmed to kill. His breath caught. "That's impossible," he whispered. But she stepped closer, her eyes glowing like fire in the shadows. "It is the bond," she said softly. "Your mind stretches with mine. Your senses reach farther. Now use it, or we both die." The first drone smashed through the hatch, metal shards flying across the corridor. Its body was dark and spiked, glowing red eyes scanning the room. It moved on 6 legs, fast and sharp, like a giant metal spider. He raised his weapon and fired. The blast struck its armor, sparks flying, but it kept coming. Then before it could strike, she raised her hand. A burst of light exploded from her palm. The drone screamed, its circuits burning, and collapsed to the ground in smoking pieces. He stared, shocked. "You could do that the whole time?" he demanded. Her eyes flashed. "Not without you," she answered. "The bond lets me draw strength. You are the source. Without you, I am weaker." He barely had time to argue before 2 more drones crawled through the hatch. This time, he felt them before he saw them. Their movements echoed in his chest, sharp and quick, almost like instinct. His body moved on its own. He fired again, this time hitting one drone's weak joint. The leg snapped, and it stumbled. The second leapt at him, but he rolled to the side, faster than he had ever moved. In his life, adrenaline surged, but it was more than adrenaline. It was her, pushing him, guiding him. His aim was sharper, His steps quicker, his mind clearer. For the first time, he felt alive in a way he never had before. The drone turned, red eyes glowing. But she was already there, moving with him as if they shared one thought. Her hand lit with power again. And together they struck. His weapon fired while her energy blast hit at the same time. The drone exploded into pieces, falling in sparks across the floor. He gasped, chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. That was me, he said in disbelief. She nodded, eyes fixed on the smoke and sparks. It was us, she corrected. But there was no time to celebrate. More signals echoed in his mind, sharper, heavier, closer. He felt them like footsteps inside his skull. They're not stopping, he whispered. She turned her glowing eyes to him. They won't, not until one of us is dead. The corridor shook as more drones forced their way through. 4, maybe 5, their red eyes burning through the dark. This time he didn't freeze. This time he stepped forward, his weapon ready. He could feel her behind him, her power flowing into his body like fire. Every movement felt synchronized, every breath shared. The first drone charged, and he dodged before it moved. The second leapt, but she pushed him aside, their bodies moving like one. The third tried to flank, but he felt it in his mind and fired before it reached him. The blast hit, sparks flying, metal shrieking. They moved as if dancing, his human instincts and her alien power blending into one rhythm. Where he was slow, she guided him. Where she weakened, he pushed forward. Together, they cut through the wave of machines, the corridor filled with smoke, sparks, and the burning smell of oil, until finally, silence fell again. He leaned against the wall, panting hard. His weapon shook in his hands, his chest heavy. That was impossible, he whispered. But she stood calm, glowing eyes watching him carefully. No, she said. That was the bond. This was only the first test. He looked at her, half angry, half afraid. You could have warned me, he snapped. She tilted her head slightly. Would you have believed me? She asked quietly. Her words silenced him. He knew she was right. Before tonight, he would never have believed, never have trusted. But now, after feeling her inside his mind, after fighting with her strength in his blood, he could not deny it. The bond was real and it was powerful, but it was also dangerous. Already he felt her presence heavy in his head. Her emotions flickered inside him, quick flashes of fear, sadness, and something else he could not name. If this connection grew stronger, he would no longer be only himself. And that thought scared him more than the drones. The silence of the station felt heavy now. The corridor littered with broken machines, smoke rising in the dim red light. He looked at her again, his voice low. What happens next? Her eyes burned brighter, and for the first time he saw a hint of something human in her expression. A faint smile, mixed with pain. Now, she said, the real hunt begins. The station lay in silence, broken drones scattered across the floor, smoke curled through the corridor, sparks still dripping from shattered wires. He stood breathing hard, his weapon heavy in his hands. Beside him she stood calm, her cloak dark against the glowing emergency lights. But there was no victory in her eyes, only warning. This is not over, she whispered. They will send more and stronger. The hunt has only begun. He swallowed hard, his chest still rising fast from the fight. Then we call command, send for backup, get a squad here, he said. She shook her head slowly, her glowing eyes sharp. No squad will arrive in time. The enemy moves faster than your people can. Believe if we stay here, we die. He wanted to argue, wanted to trust his training, his fleet, his people. But deep inside, he already knew she was right. The scanner still flickered red. More signals moving outside the station, circling like predators. They were coming, dozens this time, maybe more. No matter how strong the bond was, they could not hold this outpost, not against an entire swarm. His heart raced. Then where do we go? He asked. Her voice stayed calm but heavy with urgency. Anywhere but here, we must reach the surface. Your world is wide. On the ground we can move. We can hide. Here in space, there is nowhere to run. The words sent a chill down his spine. Leaving the station without clearance meant desertion, but staying meant death. He looked at her again, her eyes glowing steady, and for the first time, he realized she was not asking. She was telling him, if he wanted to live, he had to follow the TU. Station shuddered, metal screaming as more drones slammed against the hull. The lights dimmed, alarms wailed again. There was no time left. He grabbed the emergency pack from the wall, weapons, rations, a few energy cells. It felt small and useless, but it was all he had. Docking bay now, he said. She nodded once, and together they ran. The corridors stretched long and dark. The station groaned above them, the enemy cutting deeper. Every shadow looked alive, every sound like claws against steel. But the bond guided him. Through her eyes, he sensed which corridors were safe. Through her instincts, he felt danger before it arrived. Twice they ducked into maintenance shafts, seconds before drones swarmed. Passed. Twice they slipped through doors just before heavy claws tore them open. He had never moved like this, never trusted someone so completely. Every step, every breath felt linked to her. And though fear still clawed at him, a strange energy kept him moving. It was not only survival now, it was connection, and that thought terrified him even more than the chase. Finally, they reached the docking bay. Rows of small shuttles lined the walls. Most were half broken, old models forgotten by the fleet, but one still showed green lights, fueled and ready. He rushed to the controls, hands moving fast. The system beeped, asking for clearance codes. He cursed under his breath. Without authorization, the shuttle would not launch. She stepped forward, her hand glowing faintly. The console flickered, then unlocked. He stared in shock. "You hacked it," he said. She only looked at him with calm eyes. "We do not have time for rules." They boarded fast, the shuttle door closing with a hiss. The sound of drones echoed through the bay as they broke inside. Metal claws scraped against the walls, their red eyes glowing in the dark. He slammed his hands on the launch controls. The engines roared to life, shaking the shuttle hard. The bay doors opened, revealing the stars beyond. The drones turned, charging toward them. "Hold on!" he shouted. The shuttle blasted forward, leaving the station behind in a storm of sparks and fire. For a moment, silence returned. The black of space stretched endless around them. Earth glowed below, beautiful and calm. He almost let himself breathe. But then he felt it. Not sound, not sight, but the bond. Dozens of signals closing in from behind the swarm had followed. His hands gripped the controls tight. "They're faster than us," he muttered. Her voice echoed inside his mind. "Then we must be smarter." She placed her hand on his arm, and suddenly, his vision stretched. He saw paths of movement, possible turns, sharp dives, escapes through the stars, not with his eyes, but with her mind together. They guided the shuttle like one, diving low, skimming past debris, weaving through the swarm. The drones fired, beams of light tearing past the hull, but every time they moved just before impact, every dodge perfect, every escape too sharp to be luck. Still, the chase did not end. The drones closed in, relentless. He felt their hunger through the bond, cold, mechanical, merciless. "They won't stop," he gasped. Her voice came calm but strong. "No, but neither will we." The shuttle dived hard into Earth's atmosphere. Flames roared across the hull, the metal shaking under the heat. He gritted his teeth, fighting the controls. The swarm followed, burning streaks of fire chasing them down. Clouds swallowed the shuttle, lightning cracking across the sky. Rain hammered against the hull as they tore through the storm. The world blurred below. Cities, glowing in the night, forests stretching dark, oceans glimmering faint. Finally, the shuttle broke through the clouds. The ground rushed up fast. He pulled the controls hard, skimming just above the forest. Branches tore past, sparks flying as the hull scraped trees. The drones followed, tearing through the night like shadows with fire in their eyes. But for now they had escaped the stars. For now the chase continued on Earth. He glanced at her, sweat running down his face. Her eyes still glowed, but softer now. She looked at him, her voice low. This is only the beginning. They will not stop until they tear us apart, but together, we may yet survive. The shuttle crashed through the storm, fire fading as the engines cooled, smoke trailed behind them, sparks flashing from broken panels. The forest below stretched wide and endless. He pulled the controls hard, forcing the shuttle down into a clearing. The landing was rough, the ground shaking as metal scraped across soil and stone. Finally, the shuttle slid to a halt, sparks dying in the wet night. He sat frozen in his seat, chest heaving, hands trembling, over the controls. Outside, the forest was dark, the storm rolling above. For a moment, there was silence. But then the bond stirred, and he felt her fear before she spoke. "They are close," she whispered. Her eyes glowed faint in the dark cabin. "They will not stop until we complete the bond fully. Half a connection cannot hold against them." He turned to her, sweat dripping down his face. "You already linked into my head, I already feel you," he said. "What more do you want?" Her gaze stayed steady, her voice calm but firm. "What you feel now is only the surface, a shadow of what the bond truly is. If we are to survive, we must open fully. You must let me in, all the way." His chest tightened, the thought of letting her see everything inside him, every scar, every mistake, every memory he had buried. It terrified him more than the machines chasing them. He shook his head, his voice sharp. "No, I can't. You don't know what you're asking." But she leaned closer, her eyes burning brighter. "I do know. I have lived through it. It is the only reason I still breathe." The bond flickered, again. A glimpse of her past flashed into him before he could resist. A battlefield, her people falling, fire raining from the sky, the swarm tearing through her world, metal claws cutting lives apart, and her standing alone among ruins. He gasped and pulled back, clutching his head. Her voice echoed in his mind, quiet but sharp. "Do you see now? Without the bond, my people fell. Without it, you will too." The forest outside roared with sound, branches snapped, metal claws scraped against stone. The drones had found them. Their red eyes glowed through the trees, circling closer, he felt. Their presence through the bond, cold and sharp like knives. He gripped his weapon tighter, panic rising. But deep inside, he knew weapons would not be enough. Not this time. She stood before him, her cloak glowing faint with living light. Her hand stretched out, steady and waiting. "This is your choice," she said softly. "Open to me or die fighting alone." His breath came fast, his mind torn. He thought of his life, the long, lonely years on forgotten outposts, the silence, the emptiness, the endless watching of stars with no one to share them, and then he thought of the fight, the way they had moved together, faster, stronger, alive. The truth was clear. He had been alone too long, and maybe deep down, he had always been waiting for this. His hand shook as he reached out. Her fingers brushed his warm and electric. In that instant, the bond surged open, not a whisper this time, but a flood. Light and sound crashed through his mind. Her voice, her thoughts, her emotions all crashing into him like a wave. Pain and joy, fear and strength, memories and dreams. They all became his. At the same time, his life poured into her. His scars, his regrets, his hidden laughter, his forgotten hopes. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was separate. For a moment he could not breathe, he could not even tell where he ended and she began. And then, the chaos settled. The flood became calm. The fear became focus. And he realized something shocking. He was not two people anymore. They were one. His senses exploded outward. The forest lit up in his mind. Every drone, every claw, every glowing red eye. He could feel them circling, taste their cold hunger in the air. At the same time, he felt her, inside him. Her strength, her calm, her will. They beat together like one heart. Every breath, every thought, every step, perfectly in sync. The drones charged. red eyes cutting through the trees, but he did not fear. He stepped forward, his weapon raised. She raised her hand beside him, glowing with power, and they moved as one. The first drone leapt, but he saw it before it moved. His shot tore through its core. The second crawled along the trees, but her blast of light burned it down in sparks. The third tried to flank, but together they turned, his weapon and her energy striking as one. The forest lit with fire, metal bodies crashing to the ground. He laughed, breathless. It was not madness, it was freedom. Every movement sharper, every strike perfect, fear melted into fire, and he knew now what she had promised was true. This was power. This was survival. When the last drone fell, silence spread across the forest. He lowered his weapon, chest heaving. She stood beside him, glowing faint but steady, her eyes locked on his. "Now you understand?" she whispered. He nodded slowly, unable to deny it. The bond was more than survival. It was a transformation. He was no longer just human, and she was no longer alone. But even as the forest calmed, the bond pulsed with warning. Through her mind, he felt what she already knew. This was not victory, only delay. The swarm was vast, and this was only a fragment. He shivered, gripping his weapon tighter. Her voice echoed inside his head, strong and certain. "The war is coming, and now, we fight it together." The forest was quiet again, but the quiet did not feel safe. Smoke drifted from the broken drones, their red eyes dark and empty. He stood still, breathing heavy, gripping his weapon. She stood beside him, her cloak glowing faint in the night rain. Through the bond, he felt her thoughts steady but heavy. This fight was only the beginning. He looked at the bodies of the machines scattered across the soil. They had survived, yes, but survival felt thin, fragile. "How many more are out there?" he asked quietly. Her glowing eyes turned toward the stars. "Too many," she answered. "They are not hunters only. They are the first wave. Behind them comes the swarm, and behind the swarm comes the master who commands them." His chest tightened. He had seen battles before, but never like this. Never an enemy that moved like a storm with no face, no mercy. He turned his gaze back to her, frustration sharp in his voice. "Why me? Why not warn my people? Why not tell command the truth?" Her expression softened, but her voice stayed calm. "They would not believe until it is too late, and I could not bond with all of them. Only one, strong enough to carry me, strong enough to fight with me." Her eyes locked onto his. "And that one was you." The words pressed into him heavier than the night air. He wanted to deny it, wanted to believe this was all chance, but deep inside, the bond had already shown him truth. She had chosen carefully, and now his life was no longer his alone. The ground shook, distant at first, then louder. He felt it through the bond before he heard it, a thrum like a heartbeat, but metallic, heavy, endless. She turned quickly, her eyes flashing. "They are moving, a larger group. We cannot stay here." He nodded, pulling the weapon tight against his chest. But before they moved, her hand touched his arm, soft, firm, steady. "You must understand something," she said. "The bond gives us strength, but it also paints a mark. They can sense us, follow us. To them we shine like fire in the dark. The stronger we grow, the more they will come." He froze at her words. "So the bond makes us powerful, but it also makes us targets." She nodded once, no hesitation. "That is the price. Strength always calls the enemy closer." The trees shook, branches breaking in the distance. He tightened his grip on the weapon. "Then we don't run forever," he said sharply. "We fight back. We make them afraid." For the first time, her expression shifted. Not just calm, but proud, almost a faint smile. "That is why I chose you," she whispered. "Not because you were safe, but because you were willing to stand." The forest exploded with sound. Drones burst through the trees, larger this time, heavier, their armor gleaming in the stormlight. He felt them before they struck. Every movement, every sharp claw, every red eye. Through the bond, their path was clear. He raised his weapon, she raised her hand, and together they moved. The first drone lunged, its claws tearing the earth. He rolled aside, firing at its joints. The blast weakened its leg. She followed with a surge of energy burning through its core. The second drone leapt from the trees, but before it landed he already knew its path. His shot met it in midair, sending it crashing to the ground. The third and fourth charged together, their claws sparking as they scraped stone. But together he and she struck in perfect rhythm, weapon and light, steel and fire. The drones fell, one after another. Still more came. The forest lit with red, dozens of glowing eyes moving closer. He felt the swarm pressing, endless. Sweat ran down his face, his arms burned, but the bond pushed him forward, every strike guided, every move stronger. For every drone they destroyed, another followed, but he did not stop, and neither did she. At last, the forest floor was covered with wreckage, sparks rising like fireflies in the rain. He fell to his knees, chest heaving. She stood above him, her glow dimmer now, her power stretched thin, but her eyes still burned with fire. "You see now," she said softly. "This was only a fraction. The true war has not yet begun." He looked at her, exhausted, blood on his hands. "What are we fighting against?" he asked. "Machines, a swarm, or something greater?" Her voice dropped low, her words heavy. "The swarm is only the hand, behind it is the mind, a will that consumes worlds. It destroyed mine, now it reaches for yours." His heart sank. He thought of Earth, glowing peaceful under the stars, billions of lives unready for the storm that was coming, and he knew the truth. Command would not believe until the sky burned. By then, it would be too late. She knelt beside him, her voice soft but certain. "But we are bonded now. Together we are more than prey. Together we are hunters." He met her glowing gaze, and for the first time, he felt not just fear, but resolve. This was no longer about survival. This was war, and they would fight it together. Far above, the clouds split with distant light. The swarm was gathering. The invasion had begun, and through the bond, he felt her final thought echo deep inside him. This is not the end. This is the beginning.